Let me show you something. I've got to say that this is not an official statement of the Shroud of Turin research project. Neither, of course, is an unofficial statement. I'm only showing you something that I see. This is the back of a man that's been skinned alive the hard way. I've made my point. He's lying with a dead weight of 155 pounds pressed on a piece of linen cloth. He must have been glued to it. Everybody in this room has cut themselves at least once and put a bandage on it, or Band-Aid. And you know blood sticks. I actually found one tribe in New Guinea that glues their drum heads on with human blood. It's that strong. Some of us are old enough to have had a bandage ripped off, either accidentally or deliberately by a doctor. Two things happen every single time. Number one, you scream bloody murder. It hurts. Number two, you bleed because you ripped the clots off. Yet look at this. Every wound is unique and distinct. The doctors say that it's just as easy to do a forensic examination on these two photographs as it is an actual corpse. They're that clear. You can see, we know how many men were involved because the strokes proceed from lateral to medial, indicating two people coming from different directions. We know that one man was taller than the other. His arm was longer. He could reach further. He was a lot nastier. He enjoyed cutting up the front of the body. You can see the bar of metal connecting the dumbbell-shaped pieces of lead. You can see where they were curving around to get the front of the body. They missed his legs with the balls of lead. I don't think they were aiming at his legs. The lashes sliced through the thighs like razor blades, cutting him to the bone. The serum and plasma have separated, forms a tiny halo around each drop of blood, fluorescing precisely the way blood should fluoresce on linen cloth. What I'm saying is that there is no conceivable way that this cloth could have been taken off of the body of the man that was in it without destroying it. It should have been torn to shreds. There should be holes in it. And yet, under 300 power magnification, there isn't a broken microfiber. Do you have a brainstorm? I'm serious. We could use one. Yes, you could say possibly that his body turned into dust. It blew away, left an empty sheet, except that one Italian scientist managed to do the impossible. He had used a laboratory vacuum cleaner. He took a dust sample from every 6-inch grid on the cloth. In less than 3 years, he had identified every fleck of dust that was on the cloth and put a tag on it. He found some rather incredible things: gold, silver, rosin. At some point in history, somebody had held a torch over the cloth, examined it by torchlight. Rosin dripped on the cloth and burned through 42 layers, or burned through some extra holes in it. I got my fires mixed up. But there was nothing on this cloth that could have been produced by the human body, neither life or death, except the blood. No decavern, no decay, no flesh, no body rot. Israel is a subtropical climate. The last time I was there, it was November. The temperature was still over 90 degrees in Tel Aviv. At that temperature, a body will begin to decay in something less than 4 days. The fact that there is no decavern on this cloth would seem to indicate that the cloth and the body had been separated in something less than 4 days. 3 maybe? But it wasn't separated. Again, got a bright idea? Unless you want to use a New Testament word called resurrection. I am not making a statement of fact. I'm only asking a question. Could it be at all conceivable that maybe for a millisecond of time, his body turned into physical body, shifted forms of energy? Our body is energy of a type. Shifted forms of energy became pure energy, maybe a blue-white light, passed through the cloth, scorching an image on it, triggering the chain reaction that we call the resurrection, expanding the air, blowing the stone away, dissipating the heat, providing an exit, totally lapsed time, 1/1000th of a second or less. But boy, does it look suspicious. Pastor, check me out, because I'm going to use the Bible. You keep me from becoming apostate. Jesus was in the beginning before time began. He always was. He's immortal. He and the Father are of the same essence. That word essence means identical. You cannot think of any conceivable way that Father and Son are different. God is light. Do you know what that's saying? And I've never known of anyone to ever write on it for 2,000 years, if they ever saw it. If Jesus is the same as the Father, if they both always were, and if the Father is light, then at some time before time began, Jesus must have been light. Could it at all be possible that that's what we're dealing with here? That maybe what we have here could have been scorched by what the Jews call the Shekinah glory? Could that be what that brilliant white light was that appeared in the temple of the Jews historically at least 3 or 4 times? So brilliant that every Jewish person had to throw themselves down on the ground and cover their head with their hands because they couldn't stand up in front of it? The actual visible presence of the living God? Is that what scorched the image on the Shroud of Turin? I don't know. It's there. I'm working like mad trying to get it, but I still got a hunch in the back of my mind that we'll never tie it down tight. But it looks awfully good. Don't have to tell you what it means either, do I? 850 audiences in 6 or 7 countries, and you catch up with me awfully fast. Christianity rises and falls on the resurrection of Jesus. If Jesus was resurrected, he was God. If he wasn't resurrected, Christianity is the biggest farce, the biggest fraud that's ever been perpetrated on mankind. And there's nothing in between. It's either God or garbage. I've been accused of a great many things over the years, but nobody ever accused me of tact. It's too late to worry about it now. It's absolutely stupid to call him a good man. He did not give us that prerogative. It's either God or garbage. And sure, I've known for more years than 90% of you here have been alive, that Jesus is alive and well. I've been there. I've experienced most of it. There isn't anything left to talk about. I've seen all but 2 miracles mentioned in the New Testament take place while I was present. I have yet to see someone walk across Long Island Sound in the summertime. There's always been a bridge or a ferry. We never needed it. I have yet to see someone turn water into booze. But I've never known anyone that needed a drink that bad either. I've seen the rest, repeatedly, many times, with these eyes. It's too late to convince me that Jesus isn't alive and well. I've been there. They didn't even talk me out of it in school. But I never thought I would ever live to see the day that I could point at something and say, hey, kids, historically, archaeologically, scientifically confirmed data that seems to be saying a 1st century Jew was resurrected. What are you going to do with that? Some of us think that possibly the whole project was tied together by a cute little red-headed kid of about 17, somewhere in the state of Vermont. I never heard this kid's name. I don't remember what town I was in. I've been in many. All I remember is a cute little redhead coming up and saying, doesn't it say somewhere in the Bible, Paul, that before Jesus can return, the gospel has to be translated into every language that there is? Sure. Isn't this translating it into the language of science? That kid, whoever she was smarter than all the rest of us put together. Thanks to a 2,000-year-old rag that none of us really wanted. Today we have the gospel in the international language of science, chemistry, physics, numbers. And you don't really have to hand a scientist the Bible. You refer them to IEEE and the 2 segments, 1 chemistry, 1 physics, for the interim final report on the project. You watch their eyes go like that. The data seems to be saying a 1st century Jew was resurrected. Have fun. Christianity is not the church we belong to. I'm a Congregationalist, so big deal. I prefer to call myself a Christian. It's not being a pew-jumping Pentecostal. I happen to be one of them, too. It isn't Roman Catholicism or any of the rest of them. It's actually only the answer to a question. Is there a point in time when you, as an individual, to heck with what anybody else believes, ask Jesus to forgive you for your sins, clean up your act, take over your life, and run it his way? Then you go to the church where you feel comfortable. If you can say yes, that you prayed that prayer, you're a Christian by his standards. If you can't, I didn't write the book.